Alright, so this is the long-awaited Rocky movie. I'm going to call it Rocky 9 versus Frank. And at first, I thought Rocky was going to go down without a fight, but unfortunately, that was not the case. And we'll find out why in this video. So this is a AWS-Rocky9-vs-Frank a marketplace image that was migrated to OCI using OCM, and I am at a point where I'm ready to start the process. So I did download my scripts. I also have this pre-migration report script that I've been working on. Going to collect a bunch of useful information that would help us to maybe figure out why things go sideways in the event that everything doesn't turn out as expected. But in this case, I'll run that pre-migration script, but first let's take a look at what that's gonna do. Alright, so yeah, I used a couple of my favorite AI companions to help put this script together, and it basically, the features, it's creating a timestamp report with host name for easy identification, collects all of the information that I asked my favorite AI assistant to include, and it organizes it into clear sections for easy review. So the kernel version, the OS release, grubby information, the contents of the boot directory, the boot loaders, all of the installed kernel packages, a listing of all repos, all the contents of the repo files, the enabled repos, free space in /boot, and some other helpful info. And it also creates a CSV file of all of the RPMs that are installed as well. So that's what this does, and here's the CSV feature that I included here, which is also going to be useful, especially when there's third-party repos that come into play here. But anyway, let's get back to it. And you can see here I already ran the boot manager command. I did install this package. It wasn't installed on this image. And you could see we're currently booting from 001, which is the Oracle block volume. Rocky does have an entry here, but after the migration and I booted this thing up, it decided to boot from here. And that was my dog. So first let me run this script here. We'll let that run, and it created this CSV file that has all of the RPM info as well as this guy right here. So if we just want to take a quick look at that, we can just browse through it real quick. And here you can see it grabbed the host name, grabbed some system information, the kernel version that we're currently running, which is, I think this is 9.7 of Rocky Linux, and you can see from the OS release section here that it is currently still running Rocky 9.7. You can see the grubby info all, and there's quite a few entries here, so that's going to get cleaned up once we're done and successfully switch. You can see the contents of /boot. You can see the bootloader entries that we currently have. You can see the installed kernels that we have, and all of the kernel packages, including modules and cores. The directory listing of the yum repos D contents. So there's only Rocky repos on this server, so this one's pretty straightforward. There's no third-party repos. This server, by the way, is running a LAMP stack with a WordPress site installed, so we'll use that as validation when we're done to see if it still actually loads the home page. And then this is all repo info. I'm not going to bother looking at that. There's a lot of different repos that Rocky seems to have. These are the enabled repos out of all of that, what we just saw there. The boot volume, or the boot partition, currently has plenty of free space to do this, so I'm going to just skip through that. Here's all the packages that are installed. And I think that's pretty much it. So this is just a summary of recommendations. And then that's it for now. So let's kick off the actual switcheroo. And to do that, I'm going to do this without installing the UEK. So run it sudo. That's the script. And I'm going to put the -k, which is going to not install the UEK. So this is just going to install and the Red Hat compatible kernel. So we're going to let that run, and then we'll see the challenging part of this, because otherwise it looks like it went pretty smooth. You'll see as this finishes here. There are no errors. It looks like everything goes smooth. But when we reboot, you'll see the problem. So I'm just going to continue to let that run. You could see it's at a point where it's installing the Oracle Linux release packages now, which has its own Red Hat release. There is a Rocky Linux release, which was removed before this. It is resetting DNF modules right now. And then what it's going to do, there's a new feature here when it gets time. You could see now it's installing all of the base packages for the Oracle Linux. It's swapping out some logos. It's going to town. It's doing the firmware upgrade now, or yeah, it's going to switch out the Linux firmware with the firmware from the Oracle Linux base repositories. And then once that's done, we'll be at a point where it's ready to run the Distro-Sync. It's going to do a dry run Distro-Sync with assume no, and give us some options to choose based on what we see in the output of that dry run. So I'm going to let this continue and then pick up where this left off. Alright, so that finished, and you can see it did the dry run. The firmware finished, and it started the dry run, and there were no errors. So I have a choice of 4 options at this point, right? I don't need to exclude the firmware or skip available. I mean, it's going to, we already did the firmware. So since there were no errors, I'm going to just select option 2 and, you know, go from there. So I already know this works, so I'm doing that now. And this is going to take a few minutes to run, so we'll pick up when this is done. Yeah, so it downloaded all the packages that it needed. Now it's doing some transaction checks. It's running the transactions, and it's going to town. And it's still doing the Distro-Sync. You can see there's a lot of things that need to be upgraded or reinstalled as part of this syncing of the distros. Alright, it finished. It looks like everything's happy right now. I mean, this is a normal run where, you know, when I did this same testing with CentOS and Red Hat 7 and 8 and 9, everything looks good. It looks like it's running the Oracle Linux release. Of course, the kernel is still whatever we had before, but when we reboot, we're expecting to see this kernel version, right? And whatever the default is. Alright, so right now, this is the default kernel that's Grubby thinks is going to load at boot time. Let's see what looks different with our boot manager. And currently we're loaded to 1, right? But it should, the boot order hasn't changed yet. So 4 is the Rocky, 0 is whatever the hell that is. 1, there's no Oracle bootloader entry right now. You can see that here. Alright, so I'm going to reboot and let's see what happens here when I reboot. And you can see we do have an entry here for the Oracle Linux. It's index 2, and we did see that index 2 was set right here. But let's see what happens when we reboot. Maybe it'll work this time, but it didn't the last few. So here we go. And I need to be root. Alright, so we'll watch it on the console here. And I didn't catch which one it booted to. It flashed too fast. But it is booting, at least. That's good. Okay. So, look at that. That's not what we want, right? This is an older version than what we had before, right? This is the original Rocky9.5 that was on the AMI. And what the heck? Why did it boot to that? Why didn't it boot to what we expected, which was this guy here, right here? This is what we should have booted to. So in round 2 of this fight, we'll uncover the problem. Alright, I'm not going to let Rocky win. Come on, Rocky. Give me a break here, will you? Let's see if we could fix this. Alright, so let me just switch to root. Alright, so let's take a look at our bootloader entries first. So we have normal look here in our /boot. You can see we do have the new kernel here, right? It is in there, and it did generate its image, so everything looks good here. Let's look at the bootloader entries, and we do have a bootloader entry for that new one, right? So that's expected, but for some reason it picked this one here. Why did it do that? Let's look at what's in the EFI section here. Now this is something different, right? So I didn't see this on any of my others, where I have this boot here and I have a Rocky. Rocky seems to have their own EFI section here. And if we look at what's in the Red Hat, it looks like it's got everything it needs, but there's no environment here. There's no grub env here. And if we look at the Rocky one, Rocky does something weird that I haven't seen before. And the only thing in the Rocky EFI info is a grub config file. And if we look at that grub config, it doesn't look like your normal grub.cf. It's just got this, right? It only has this section here, and it basically, as far as I could tell, it just points it back to the grub config that sits here. It's using this. Now, is there a saved entry in here? Where is it getting the saved entry from? Wait, actually, you're not going to see it here. You're going to see it in the grub env, right? So there's the saved entry here. You can see we have an Oracle entry right now, but we booted up from this guy, right? It didn't find what it needed in the preferred boot order, right? We should have booted from here, which is going to read the info from that Red Hat EFI, and it didn't, and it resorted back to what we had before, but then it loaded the old version of Red Hat of Rocky 9.5. So after pulling out my hair for quite some time and doing, I lost track of how many AI searches, I came up with this procedure here. So the machine ID changed, right? That much we know. So if we look at the machine ID now, it's different than what it was when it was running on AWS. So I already know what it is, but let's just take a quick look at that. So that's the machine ID, and if you look at the bootloader entries again, so you could see these are foreign guys right here, and it booted from this one here. So this one here got updated to the right machine ID, but this one here is still a foreigner. It's got the old machine ID, and it looks like that's what the bootloader is picking when it comes time to load the config. So anyway, back to the fix, because I still don't 100% understand why I have to do this, but it seems to work. So here's the procedure, right? I need to create a grub env file inside of that Red Hat folder there. So let's do that by running this command here. And if we look in that directory now, we should have an empty env file here. So there shouldn't be anything in it. It's just an empty env file, but let's just confirm. And there's nothing in it. And if you look at other environments, this is pretty much the same. It should have a grub env in here that looks like this. So let's see, what do I have to do now? So I already did check the machine ID. So now I got to get those foreigners out of the way, right? So especially this guy here. So I'm going to make a backup directory and move those old bootloader entries out of there. Again, I did not have to do this on any of my others. This seems to be unique to Rocky for some reason. And maybe it may even be unique to Rocky images running on AWS. I don't know. I haven't done enough testing with Rocky yet to see if we're going to have this problem with all Rocky images or not. Alright, so if we look at our bootloader entries now, we only have the ones that we care about, right, which match this machine ID. If I reboot right now, things will probably get ugly. So you don't want to do that. So now that I've done that, I need to reinstall the kernel so it runs those scripts again. So I'm not 100% sure of this, but I'm going to follow this procedure which has worked before. So let's do it again, because the kernel's already installed. It's not going to do much, but it might update grub again and just set the default, but we'll confirm as soon as this is done. Yeah, so it didn't really do it. It went really fast, so it already had all the packages and it just ran the scripts. I think that was the key, is to get it to run those scripts again. And then I need to run this command, which I'm not 100% sure what it does, but according to my gurus of AI, this needs to be run. And we'll have to do a little bit more research on this fix just to make sure this is the best way to do this. Alright, so that obviously did some changes to the grub. And now I can check the available kernels, but I already know that I want to just run this guy here just to make sure we're set to the correct index. Alright, and it went to index 0, and if we look at the grubby info all here, we should see index 0 is what we want. Alright, so here's index 0, and you can see that's the right kernel right there. That's the guy we were expecting to load after we rebooted after the switch. So let's see if this is going to work. I think I did everything I was supposed to do. We're going to reboot it again and see what happens. Alright, it's booting from the right one. Alright, and there you go. Look at that, it worked. So this is 2 times in a row, so that fix procedure looks like it works, but is it the best way? Is it the right way? I don't know yet, but it definitely worked. So let's go in now and just remove that old original Rocky kernel and reboot again just to make sure this thing still comes up with this same version. Alright, it's rebooting. And it came back up to the right one, so that's good. So now, just for the finale, what we'll do for the finale is we'll install the UEK and reboot and see if it comes up with the UEK kernel. So let me do that. I don't think the UEK repo is enabled, so I need to enable the UEK repo. And now we can install the kernel. Alright, the UEK was installed successfully. You can see the UEK was set to default. We should have a new bootloader entry. And we do. And the UEK is now index 0. And then we should see also another bootloader entry. And we have a UEK bootloader entry here as well. So let's reboot it and see if the UEK comes up. It's rebooting. It has selected 2 again. And it looks like a UEK kernel to me, and that looks like the UEK as well. So let's just make sure our wonderful WordPress site is working. So I'll just grab this IP address and plop it in here. And there you go. Rocky lost in round 2. Boom. All done. That's it for now.
Beat him up, Bill. I don't know. Can't even get his gloves up to protect him. He's defenseless now, Bill.
Down, stay down.
Apollo dancing around with his arms in the air.